Okay, the last question is actually something for both of you. So I would give you a last thank you and a virtual round of applause from the audience, and pull up Julian as well, so that you can both have the pleasure to answer this one. Let's see. Hey, Julian.
Hi.
Both of you work with Bevy for a while. How hard is it to upgrade between releases?
Well,
I mean, you have a lot of content out there, Niklas, in terms of crates. Sorry, Julian. And you with your gaming project will probably suffer similar issues. So, Julian, take it away.
On my side, I think answered part of the question, but I think it depends on the scope. And for the moment, my game doesn't have much in terms of scope. It's focused on animations, cameras, and input management. So I would say that I didn't see any big impact. I just try to keep up with the releases, and that's all for me. I didn't have any big issue in upgrading.
But you pointed out in your presentation that it's it's not the first time that I hear that your approach is to try to keep your dependencies minimalistic, right? And I'm wondering what's the because obviously that's kind of a shame in the end. We have such a great ecosystem of crates out there. So if someone watching this is wondering, okay, what now? Should I use all of this? There's so much amazing stuff. Doesn't it make my life easier? So what do you think we as a community behind the engine can do to improve that situation?
Well, I think it's inherent to plugins, so I don't know, to be honest, what we could do. And the Rust ecosystem is always in 0 point something, so we don't have much stable versions, I think. Sometimes we should, but Rustaceans are like this. But yeah, I don't know, to be honest, because that's what it is. Bevy is quite young, and we are learning and at the same time implementing a lot of different stuff. So I think it's the drawback of having a game engine that is at the very beginning. And I think if you want something that is very stable and easy to use, go for Unity and Unreal, maybe Godot, but well, Bevy, without talking about pricing, right? I mean,
Or a lot
just
of other things.
if you want to learn maybe just the very basics, Unity is fine. But if you want to learn how to do real game development, how it works under the hood, then you not only use APIs, but you see how you can develop a feature. So that's what I like. But the drawback is you will have to maintain stuff and upgrade and so on.
Yeah, moving fast, breaking things, right? Niklas, what's your experience with that?
Well, Bevy game template itself only has 2 dependencies, like Bevy plugin dependencies, and I'm the maintainer of both of them. So for Bevy game template, it's not that hard. Like I don't usually only have that problem when I was too slow updating the other 2 plugins. But these plugins actually have some dependencies, and yes, it has happened a couple of times that I then maintain my own forks of some other plugins and just open pull requests for new Bevy versions and try to update my own against that custom fork. I think, like, for me personally, I mean, I like doing this kind of work, so I'm okay with it at the moment. I think that the way that Bevy is currently handling new versions is actually quite good, right? We want to move fast. We do want to break things and learn new things and iterate on the APIs. That's a positive thing, I think, at least this early on, while things are not really settled. But there have been quite a couple of discussions, actually, the last few versions about how to improve this. And as far as I remember, the next time we're going to have some kind of release candidate. I don't know whether it's going to be like an official one or not, but as far as I remember, there's going to be like a ping to the developers. Now, like, consider this commit kind of something you can start updating against. So there's going to be a little bit of runway for people who maintain plugins so they have more time, because some people really maintain many crates and don't have enough time then to update fast. And then there's a bunch of people waiting for it. This can generate quite some stress. So I think it's good if we can minimize this.
Yeah. speaking of which, do you know? Are you aware if there's some similar template to yours for Bevy plugin authors? Because that would be, for example, something that I imagine would be quite helpful if it would run against some Bevy master all the time to basically put it in your face that it's currently not compatible with whatever will be eventually a release.
No, I'm not aware of that. Do you now mean really a GitHub template project for Bevy plugins, or were you now talking about some automatic CI to test against main?
I mean, basically both, like a template that contains the CI like yours automatically for when I want to start some open source Bevy plugin, which automatically makes sure that this is also, I don't know, nightly running against a Bevy master branch, something like that. Because it's sort of a best practice I see in a lot of plugins to have a tag release for that matches a certain Bevy version, and master usually or sometimes try to go with Bevy master, right? In case you have to, in case your project makes it necessary that you have to go to Bevy master.
Yeah, I do not do that automatically because I think it would generate a lot of noise. Like at the moment, it would definitely fail, but I don't want to update now to Bevy 014 because on the way there, maybe some things get changed again that I would have to update in between to get the CI green. So I just tend to do this like in the weeks upcoming to a release, and then it's a manual process for me.
Yeah, gotcha. So that's, but that still leaves the original question out there. Like, how much breakage did you observe over the last years and releases between Bevy releases? Let's not talk about the plugins there.
It really depends on the version. So some of them were very simple, like a search and replace through the whole repository, and like 2-3 search and replace, and the whole thing was updated. Then there were some significantly bigger ones. So mostly the ECS updates, I think, were quite breaking. So when the system sets were completely redone, or the way that you register systems changed. But all in all, I would say it's usually rather fast. Like the first one is like when you start looking into it, it might be a little bit slow. But what I tend to do is I open the migration guide that is usually by then already like at least in work, if not public. So you can just open the pull request for the migration guide, go through that once, and then you will learn to spot all the things that you're supposed to change. And then usually it's rather fast. I don't think I spend much time on this usually. Maybe like an hour or two for everything. And with the dependencies of my plugins, I usually have to do like 5-6 great updates or so maybe.
Okay. Well, we are actually running out of questions here. That's a first, and we are not even at 3 hours yet, so that's great for the audience. But that also leaves us with maybe some headroom for a few like freestyle questions. Is there anything that you guys want to talk about after watching each other's talk?
I'm just amazed at looking at 3D animations. I can't do this myself, but it looks very nice.
Yeah, that's a lot of pain too. By the way, there is this. I was doing a live stream, and someone who was watching was using or tried to use Oz animation. There is something in Rust to adapt it, so it might also
Can you elaborate what that is?
Yep, I'm just sharing the link in the chat. It does fail to post. I don't know why. Okay, can you maybe type OZZ animation array? So I don't know, but this is an adaptation. Sorry, an adaptation of OZZ, which is a way to create animations, and you have inverse kinematic. So when you want to create procedural animations, for example, or you will have blending, animation blending and stuff like this. So this is like a set of tools to make animations, and there is a crate in Rust to just make an adaptation for Bevy. But I don't know if I can share a link. I wanted, but I was rejected.
Yeah, maybe this is some anti-spam thing. You can send it to me and I will share it.
Yep.
So we asked Julian already what kind of project he's working on. Niklas, you're maintaining so many crates. Do you still have time for working on an actual game, or is it just tooling that excites you?
I don't have a big game project or anything like that. I tend to jump projects a little bit too much. So I did some other projects a little bit outside of Bevy. I mean, I have one thing, for example, I built like a static site generator, which is still using Bevy ECS, so a little bit in Bevy still. But at the moment, I'm doing something completely else. But yeah, in general, I think I would still like to write games, definitely. So I am planning to join the game jam or maybe some game jams in the future. Definitely the next Bevy jam. I will try to.
Do you know when it is? Just as a quick shout out for the audience.
Should be next version again, right? I think it's every second
Okay.
version. We didn't have a gem for 013, so 014 should have one. So usually like 1 or 1.5 months after the initial release. So everybody has enough time to update and we have enough time for bug fixes in the engine.
Yeah, nice. So you mentioned game jams before. So you worked on games then for jams before in Bevy. What was the what would you say was an outstanding aspect of Bevy using Bevy for it instead of another engine?
So my reason why I started with Bevy initially was just that it's Rust. I wanted to learn Rust. I wanted to use Rust. I was learning Rust, and looking at Bevy, it was just a lot of fun to work with. I stuck with it because I really like the code that you can write with Bevy. I really like ECS for game development. I think that this kind of dependency injection, that kind of pattern that you get for systems, is really nice to work with. And the kind of API that you can write with it also in plugins, like the kind of API that Bevy Asset Loader has, I really have a lot of fun designing it or working on it, working with it. So I think this is why I stuck around mostly.
Yeah, yeah. That's super interesting because I'm reaching out to a lot of people in the community in the course of this meetup, and there's basically people like you that want to find something to build games in Rust because they love Rust. But I also it's kind of funny because there's also a bunch of people that come to Rust because of Bevy, because they're looking for like such a deeply ECS driven game engine that most inevitably they come up with Bevy at some point. And then they might have heard about Rust before or not, but they actually go into it then because of how appealing Bevy is for them. So I find that super interesting.
I've made the experience.
Some people use it for other stuff, like creating a synthesizer or a dashboard for the car. That's quite surprising.
Yeah.
Not only games.
Niklas, what did you want to say?
Yeah, I've made the experience that a couple of times at my workplace, I've actually done like workshops using Bevy, and I've made the experience there that Bevy is actually excellent to learn Rust. So it's nice to hear this, because Bevy, if you write like a little game, you don't have to care about many of the more complicated parts of Rust. Right? There are no lifetimes in your code. You don't have any weird types mostly. Yeah, I mean, there's no mutex around, at least not in your code. The Bevy game code itself will look quite harmless. And I've made really good experience with that. So it's fun to hear that people actually come to Bevy without any Rust knowledge. I hope they have a good time.
Yeah. Then you haven't built big enough systems yet, because as soon as you have to go parameter set or param set, I think you
Okay.
are off to the races. And then suddenly it's like, what the hell is this? And I agree, Bevy will hide a lot of those typical Rust intricacies for a long time, which actually I agree makes it a great entrance to the language.
Like at least a game of the size of a game jam. So if you have like a day or two, you don't run into those things.
Yeah, probably. Julian, what were your past Bevy projects before the voxel game?
Well, I was trying to do some procedural generation for an hexagonal map, but I stopped. It was just a lot of work, to be honest, and I wanted something a bit more visual. It's just easier to share with the community, and then I just switched to voxel art and try to make a game with it. So. Yep, that's just this project, I think. I didn't try much. I tried at some point to do a 2D game where you control a boat. But since I love to just set up cameras, I was mostly hacking cameras and trying to get a smooth transition when you move the boat. And yeah, that's mostly what I did.
And you mentioned other engines like Unity. Is there anything that you would choose another engine for these days?
Well, I don't know. I started with Unity, but it was C#, very near from Java, and that's why I was using it at the beginning. It was quite, user friendly. But since I invested in Rust, I thought that Bevy was the right choice. And so there is now a foundation, and I think the community is nice. And Unity, I was a bit disappointed by the fact that the entity component system for Unity was completely broken multiple times. So I wanted to learn about this methodology, or to organize your entities and components, and it was very difficult with Unity. A lot of API changes. It was in preview, so I wasn't really happy. So that's why I switched to Bevy, and because I was investing in Rust. But if I should switch to something else, it would be, I think, good for the community aspect, and apparently can also do some Rust. So that's
That would
a
be
possibility.
my next question. Did you look into the Rust bindings? Is that what you would use?
Yeah, I think I will start by there.
Okay.
Because I have already the skills to write some Rust, so that's what I will do. But I didn't try.
Okay, gotcha. I mean, I heard the other day a quite interesting comparison when people are talking about Bevy not having an editor and all, right? I mean, last time I believe, or at least for a while, Unity, if you wanted to go the ECS route, you also didn't have an editor, because all of that was basically then code only. So we are not too far from that then.
But I think we don't necessarily need a scene viewer and stuff like this. What I would like to have in my game would be a switch mode. I already have a switch mode between dev and player mode, but I would like to have, this drop-down panel where you can just search for an item, something like this, and it will just open a UI, and you drop the item directly in your game, and then you can save the current view of the game. I think it's way more efficient, and you're directly in the game, so you have all the events. But I think people are just used to this scene coming from Unreal and Unity, so I know that people are investing time in this scene view, as we saw in the meetup last time. But but yeah, I would like to experiment with a direct game view where you can just drop stuff, 3D models, animations.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then when you talk about an entity, you probably talk about the whole big configuration of one, right? With like what Unity would call a prefab, I assume, that you want to drop into scenes then. Yeah. Which you probably still need an editor for then.
Yeah, but you can use Blender. I was trying last time, and you have Blender and the blueprints crates for Bevy, which is the equivalent of prefab. And you can just spawn something with this. If you connect Blender to Bevy, it works. I think it would be a good first step.
Yeah. Well, I never managed to learn Blender, so that might be a good reason then. So since there's no other question coming in, I would ask the last question to both of you. Maybe Niklas, you want to start. What would be the number one thing you want to see in Bevy in the future, which you think is missing, like the priority one for you? And And then also, what makes 014 exciting to you? And the animation graph is not allowed, Julian.
Also not for me.
Okay, come on.
I would pick it then. No, it's actually the only bigger feature that I'm aware of in 014 at the moment. So yeah, I would pick that still. What I want to see in Bevy. To be honest, everything I've ever needed in my small little game jam games has been there. I'm perfectly happy with code only. I'm not missing an editor really at all. Then if I do, I can just get the dependency in. That gives me these drop-down windows where I can, look into the ECS world. It's a one-liner, right? So yeah, never missed that really.
Okay.
And other than that, I mean, what I would like is that the engine has more standard procedure for getting cross-platform built. So at the moment, this is really a lot of work to configure every platform right, especially for the mobile platforms. So it would be nice if that path will get a little bit smoother and easier. But like from the engine features, since I move mostly in 2D, not in 3D, there's not much missing for me. I think in 3D, there's still a lot of features that are planned and being worked on. And
yeah. Okay. Julian.
Yeah, I was trying to unmute. On my side, I don't know if it will be in the next release, but there is this PC app shadow filtering, and it wasn't available for point lights. It was available for general shadows, but now with the point light, you will be able to have a good shadow. And I think this is the kind of stuff I would like to see for 3D. Everything that other game engines have, like managing shadows. It's really important when you have a 3D world to get good shadow casting and good light. And I think it's actively being worked. So I'm happy with it. But in terms of feature, that's all. Currently, I'm still experimenting, so I don't know much what what I will need next. For the moment, I'm just playing with animations. Next would be to load the assets, and each time I need something, there is a plugin or someone who did something. Even the state machine for animations, someone already tried something. So because it's open source, it just opens a lot of possibilities. So that's good. For the moment, I don't have any blocker, to be honest. And even the input manager, the different input manager, was really a very nice crate to use, very nice API. I was really surprised, and it was easier than what I had in Unity to manage the controller. So that's the kind of stuff that I think is really promising for Bevy. And since it's open source, I don't have any issue to think that we will get all the different plugins and implementation we need, and some will be ported in the official version. So that's a really cool way to approach, I think, development.
Yeah.
Now
I
that
agree.
I see the chat, though, I remember one thing: UI. I am really looking forward to better UI. So somebody wrote round buttons. I don't care much about round buttons specifically, but spawning menus in general or just other kinds of UI shouldn't be so boilerplatey and difficult. So I'm really looking forward to that improving a lot, and I think it will, because now that focus goes on an editor, we will need all the widgets, and that should make things a lot better.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. Which, by the way, when you try to use Bevy UI, you would definitely, I'm not sure if you will still keep your stance of everything in code is fine, because that's a load of iteration and recompilation there. Unless you are breathing Flexbox, probably, then you don't have to try out as much things as I have to.
Yeah,
like, is it just justify? Is it align items, justify items, or what was it again?
for that, it's quite nice to just have this eGUI plugin in and just change the values on the fly.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
That's then your editor, and that's in those cases, that's enough of an editor, really.
Yeah, that's a good point. Although I must say I definitely missed the fact that the editor is decoupled from the actual game view, because especially when you iterate on UI and you want it to be reactive in terms of size, and then you have this gigantic eGUI inspector on top of your UI that is supposed to have the aspect ratio of an iPhone, then you have no game left anymore. So you inevitably make your window huge, and then all the reactivity, basically, if you have it, will make it look not as much as you expect anymore. So I don't know if there's, I actually wanted to look if there's some like remote debugging inspector UI out there, because that would be kind of helpful then, or spawning a separate window for the inspector GUI to have that somewhere else. That would be nice, so that I can have the original window in the constant size.
I think the window part, I read something that might be supported, actually.
Okay.
The other thing, it might be possible to just have your UI in a scene, right? Does that not yet work? Or I never tried. I mean, my UI was usually so minimal that I didn't even think about it. I just have like 2 menu buttons or so.
You mean in the scene file?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if that's.
You could just edit the scene file. It gets hot reloaded.
I don't. I last time I talked to someone about that, they mentioned it's probably going to be hard, because it's even though you might only care for a handful of properties, there is a load of properties in there. It's going to be a huge scene file if you export it raw.
That might be
but
true.
yeah, I agree. It's actively worked on, and I think we are very aware that this needs to be improved to be able to have a decent Bevy editor. Okay, cool. Thanks to you both for your awesome presentations, and thanks to the viewers out there for the interesting questions and the great conversations that come out of it. I'm super happy always to have this and hear from people like you that are actually working hands-on with the editor, with the engine, or with the ecosystem of it. So this is always super interesting. And a little shout out to everyone in the stream. If you have a topic that you want to present or talk about, or if you know someone that you would like to see you present, then please reach out to me on Discord or wherever. I'm really curious and always looking for new content for this. So thank you guys. I think we will call it a day. That was probably the shortest meetup so far, but also very refreshing. Okay, guys. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.